Request all of you to please keep your mobile phones on silent mode. On behalf of CII, I welcome you to the plenary session titled AI, What Does the Future Hold? There's a video that's been created for the session. May I request the video to be played, please? May I invite Session Chair, Mr. Rajiv Memani, Vice President CII, to kindly take forward the session proceedings.
Yeah, thank you very much, and welcome to all of you. Mr. Krishnan will be joining in about 10 minutes, so I think we will kick it off, and then when he comes, we'll probably request him for his introductory remarks. So let me start, and before I set the context, I think it'll be, as all of you would agree, this is a very interesting phase. India is a very important cusp of the entire AI stroke Gen AI revolution. And I think we'll discuss some aspects of that. And we have a very eminent panel. Let me start from my right. Professor Bharat Bhaskar is a director in IIM Ahmedabad. He is a thought leader, and he has advocated India's integration in the global AI landscape to enhance its competitiveness and innovation. He has been involved with industry and also has authored several papers and books in the world of technology and transformation. On my right is my dear friend, TP, Tejpreet Chopra, sorry. TP is the founder and CEO of BLP Group. In his former life, he was the country head for GE in India. He's been a serial entrepreneur and has set up various businesses, including some substantive ones in the field of renewable energy. And now he has set up an organization called Industry.ai, which is a leading AI outfit in India, especially in industry and infrastructure, and focused a lot in AI in terms of safety, quality, competitiveness of manufacturing, as well as energy efficiency. And on my extreme left is Vinayak Dalmia. Vinayak is also a young serial entrepreneur. He is the co-founder and managing director of Third iTech and 114 AI, very active both in the area of AI and semiconductors. He's also spent a lot of time in investing in the startup and very engaged with the startup ecosystem. Particularly in the area of AI, he is doing a lot of work in sectors like national security, defense. So that's our panel. What I'll do is I'll maybe set up, make some introductory remarks, and then request our panelists to do the same. Whenever Mr. Krishnan joins, I think we will request the same from him, and then we will probably have some Q&A. So I think I mean all of you know the hype and excitement around AI. But I'm particularly excited about AI from the perspective not only of what's happening globally, but what's happening in India. And there are 3 or 4 reasons for that. I think the first and foremost is the initiative that the government is laying down in trying to really build this up. The government mission, AI mission, they've set aside 10,000, 11,000 crores to be invested in that. I think that's the initial start. But that's a good way of having a collective policy and investment and a focused strategy around that. Secondly, the entire digital public goods, digital infrastructure that the government has set up mainly for societal benefit. I think the kind of data that we have on some of that is really outstanding. So the collection of data, whether it's through healthcare, insurance, UPI, and everything else that we have, sets a very good basis for AI. Obviously, one has to be careful in the way that data is used, the way that data is governed, the quality of data and everything. But at least quantitatively, you have a lot of data at one place. The other thing I would say is that India is one of the largest producer and consumer of data. Because of the large number of mobile, broadband, data consumption, large consumption market, large e-commerce space. And that again is a very, very fertile ground for either testing for the various AI platforms and the foundational tools that are set up, but also for various AI applications. The talent pool that India has today, the large number of STEM talent, I think the ability to move with speed on AI will be great. And I think it's also being, if I look at the global capability centers and what's being set up, today I would say most of the innovation that is happening globally, when we are looking at doing that at scale, a lot of that is actually happening in India. So the entire ecosystem that's being built around AI is very powerful. And I think that really puts India in a very, very interesting place from an AI standpoint. And I think the scale, speed at which AI gets applied, at the way it disrupts industries, will probably be very rapid once that sets in India. The enterprises in India have also been very active. I think it varies, the application of AI varies a lot with the sectors that you are in. In areas like financial services and everything probably is far more rapid, far more. And then also it depends on companies as well. At EY, we just did a research and we felt that AI is now, at least a lot of companies and organizations are starting to do POCs. And in our research that we did, at least 15 to 20% of those POCs are now starting to have industrial application. And in case of global capability centers, that number is as high as 35 to 40%. So you're actually seeing some things play out very effectively. A lot of this is more in internal processes, much more in HR, in customer service. I think people are still wary of putting it out completely for third-party use, but a lot of internal work is starting to happen. A lot of it is also happening in areas like for document intelligence, a lot of it is for search, a lot of it is for knowledge management. So those are the areas where we are seeing the application being very rapid. The GPU cloud is offering GPU on tap for enterprises. So I think that's also something that that is happening. And I would say the entire startup ecosystem is where we are seeing the maximum amount of activity. So when we did a research of the top 50 unicorns in India, just what they put out publicly, 2/3 of them use AI, Gen AI, that is the source of their core competitive advantage. To the speed at which the startup ecosystem, they're no longer startups, they've all become very meaningful companies, are using that. That's also accelerating a lot of the application of AI and Gen AI in India. On the AI startups, we did some analysis, and last year about only $30 million were invested in pure AI startups. This year till date about $100 million has been invested. A lot of them are in, these are true AI startups which are just focused on that. Some of them obviously large language models that are being set up. But the space is becoming more and more interesting. There are no, it's not that there are not issues in AI. I think Gen AI, a lot of that I'm sure will be discussed by the panel. Hallucination is still an issue. And I think that's a big concern. Data privacy, data sovereignty, data access is a big issue. Third, when companies start applying this, cost becomes a big issue. It's almost roughly costs about 9 paisa per word per token, or word or token processing, which is significant. Although last week when Chat GPT 4.0 model was released, that probably cost curve will come down significantly as compared to when Chat GPT 4 Turbo was there. So these are some of the concerns that are there. Particularly, I would say how India AI mission works and how they move on. I think when the secretary is here, we'll probably get into the details of that. So overall, I would say India is at a very important inflection point. Policy is moving proactively. We are seeing what's happening in Europe, which is much more protective. US, which is far more encouraging of the entire AI ecosystem. The way India is structured is very promising. What enterprises in India are doing, small experiments they're starting with, are accelerating. Startups are leading the entire journey of AI. And there are concerns which government and industry are working together to try and see how they can address. So with that, I would hand it over to our panelists. Professor Bhaskar, maybe I'll start with you. What I would really request is if you can give your thoughts, overviews, but also leave the audience with one real-life example that you see where AI application has really made an impact. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If you look at AI, suddenly the euphoria or a hype got created because of the arrival of Chat GPT, because everybody in masses can understand. It's the same moment which happened when the web technology came in. Internet was there, but the arrival of web made it accessible to each and every person. Exact same thing is happening through Chat GPT. Everybody says in their life, it can make a difference. Prior to that also AI was happening. People have been talking about Amazon's shipping fulfillment centers using the robots. That's also part of the AI. So AI has two dimensions. One is that thinking dimension, or amplifying the capability of human dimension, which is what I call the Chat GPT doing. That if I wanted to make certain document or information collection, or even make PowerPoint slides, I can, today's thinking technology can create all that from my few lines of the text or my whatever I jotted down, and can be converted into that. So that actually part of the AI is amplifying the human capabilities. One can also say that it probably reduces the requirement of many other people who are doing that kind of a job. Second part of the AI is the interactive AI, and that you see everywhere, Siri and Google's Assistant and on, you find a variety of them. Many applications are there, banking, etc., are using chatbots, but those chatbots are very primitive in nature. Basically, whatever was in frequently asked questions model, they were pulling out the answers and giving it. Today's chatbots, with AI capability, with large amount of data trained under them, can also think and give answers. But they also need to have two other aspects and where we require them to be trained, because they tend to be blunt in some sense or not human-like. And they need to be made human-like. And there's a need, and that's what many of the new chatbots which are coming are training, which is going on in various newer organizations. Nuance Technology, for example, is working on that, creating empathy and personality in a chatbot. Now, empathy means you all understand, but a robot or a program driven by artificial intelligence doesn't understand. Can it be trained? That they are showing in their prototypes. It can be trained. It can also be given a personality. So we'll require people who can create a personality in them and also create empathy, so that when we are interacting with those chatbots, it's not a very dull or a non-personalized communication. It also happens to be a very personalized or a empathetic communication with them. The third aspect which has happened actually in a bigger scale and already has percolated into industry is what we call the ability to embody the human being, where it becomes an expansion of human capability. And automobile has been a great example of that. Initially in the robot lines or manufacturing lines, in the assembly lines, etc., which was happening, you got the standard cars. Part of it was manufactured by robots and part of it was done by human beings. Today, we are all looking for, in an online mode, ordering our automobile, which is in a sense customized to my needs. In a mass scale assembly line or a Ford assembly lines, you cannot do that for a simple reason, because the productivity will be taking a big hit. Today, they are producing nimble robots. Actually, many of the shop floors have already using some of the assembly lines, where these robots are sensitive robots. Rather than blocking the humans and robots away from each other, these robots are working next to each other. One of the prime example is the gearbox assembly. Right? In the gearbox assembly, one of the work of the human being is that they prepare the casing, and after that they lift about 6 to 8 kgs worth of a gear and load into it. Now, robot sitting next to it, the moment human being prepares the casing, automatically lifts that and puts it into the casing. Human has moved on to the next casing preparation, and robot automatically moves along and continues to do it. This happens without getting into any accident, without getting into any kind of a running over each other, adjusting to the timing of each other. And these are the sensitive robots. Fanuc in Japan is producing it. Rethink Technology is producing it. If you see Fanuc's robots, they are actually sensitive to avoid the collision. And Rethink Technology's robots tend to have lesser shock, meaning that they are not able to visualize. Even if there's a 1% chance of accident happening or they're running into, they keep the blow so soft that at the touch they realize and move back. This is the other where the capability. Now humans can do easier job, intelligent job and non-tiring job. So lifting, carrying out in assembly line, all these tougher things are being taken away. Other example is where it's already in action is the Waymo, which is a Google's car. And it was a prototype for several years, but today it's a running car. You go to streets of San Francisco, it's running as a taxi service. The streets of Phoenix, it's running as a taxi service. And these are it's a human-oriented robot, but it's a defensive driving training to them. One of the problems today Google is facing and trying to solve is that it's a very gentle technology, artificial intelligence loaded into it, runs it and gives way to everybody else. So if you are in a crowded San Francisco street and you are waiting for signal and you are even first in line, but if somebody tries overtaking, just sensing the signal, the car will stop and let you go. So you can be, Google car can be standing for 3-4 light turns, everybody will overtake them. Now they have to figure it out, they can't make it aggressive. So these are the challenges. If you make it aggressive, accidents are likely to happen. And then, of course, the heavens will fall on them that artificial intelligence is killing the human beings, etc., and so on. So there are still challenges in the technology, when to be, to what extent go forward. But these three aspects of the artificial intelligence today are changing the landscape of the industry in every sense. Whether it's an office-oriented, blue-collar, manufacturing-oriented, blue-collar work, or an office-oriented, white-collar work, everybody is going to be impacted by it. And we need to be prepared, as Rajiv already talked about, that Government of India is pumping in. Industry also needs to prepare, because no single entity, including government, can bring out the transformation where we remain leader. And in order for us to remain leader, it's an inflection point, the way we think and way we manufacture and way we do way we operate in our offices will change drastically in next 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you so much. So your seat is here. Okay. Hi, please come. So I would like to, as I had mentioned earlier, Secretary was, as soon as he comes, we will make the introduction. Mr. Krishnan, as all of you know, is Secretary of BETI, and on behalf of CII, sirs, my sincere gratitude for accepting the invitation and coming to speak here, and also congratulations for successfully running the presidency of GPAI, of the global partnership on artificial intelligence. And thank you very much for the encouragement that METI and Government of India has been providing to the entire AI ecosystem. And we talked a little bit about that in the way you're coordinating some of the activities and some of the policy changes that are happening. So I'll hand it over to you, sir, and we'll be love to listen to some of the introductory remarks from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I first apologize for getting a little delayed on my way here. I think I can assure you that whatever I was doing was in the interest of industry and in the interest of the information technology and electronics industry at large. Let me first just make a few comments, and I can always come back a little later in the session to outline what the Government of India really thinks is the possibility of possibilities that AI holds for the economy and the transformation of the economy, and how we intend to approach this whole issue in terms of making sure that the country derives the maximum benefit for this through a set of measures. We believe that AI truly holds the potential of being a transformational technology, and it could be the moment, an inflection point in the country's economic history and development history, and it could make the kind of difference that previous episodes of horizontal technologies being introduced into the economy had, whether it was steam engine, whether it was the internet, or any of the others. And we can actually see significant benefits and growth impact of this particular technology being applied across different sectors of the economy. And therefore, the objective of the government is to make sure that the technology itself, the possibilities of using it, and the possibilities of using it in a manner that is relevant to India and consistent with what India requires, is something that the government should prepare for. And that is what the Artificial Intelligence Mission, the India AI Mission, really tries to take in. It has basically 7 major pillars which have been constituted within the mission. The first and the most important one, and the total expenditure is about 10,500 crores nearly. And the first and the most important segment relates to creation of adequate capacity of AI compute for use by research institutions, for use by innovators, for use by startups and industry at large in India. The target is to establish at least 10,000 GPU worth of AI compute capacity in the country. And for this, the government is prepared to provide for a significant, at least up to about 50% of the cost of creating this infrastructure. In order to speed up the entire process, the idea is to partner with a variety of private institutions so that we are able to work with the private sector in making this capacity available quickly. There is an independent capacity for government's own use, which is being attempted through the National Supercompute Mission. So that is something which goes separately. But this is something where we work in association with the private sector and ensure that the compute capacity itself is privately created, but the utilization could be at a subsidized rate for certain identified kinds of use cases. And in this context, in order to sort of get it off the ground quickly and for it to be something which different types of providers can use, we want to make it available both on possibly a VGF basis where new capacity would be created and there would be a viability gap fund from the government, or alternatively, in addition to the VGF mechanism, also do a kind of a voucher-based mechanism where the capacity is already created. We issue out vouchers which people can use. So that is a key element of what we intend to do. The other key element is to create a foundation model which is specific to India. We are all aware of the issues with foundation models. We are also aware that even in the last 12 months, the way people are thinking about foundational models is changing. People are talking about large language models. Now they're talking about large multimodal models. Then they're more data efficient. Some of them are becoming smaller and more efficient. So a number of those efforts are going on. In our conversations with industry and with the private sector and with a variety of experts and others, we do realize that this is a constantly changing field. And therefore, the way that the foundational model within India would also be constructed will have to sort of adapt to these changes as they come up. So there would be an India AI center which would create this. Then another important chunk would be to sort of look at how the data platforms are created, and data is more easily and more widely made available for these foundation models to really work on and for use cases to develop and so on. Another particular pillar will look at the specific use cases that can be created and the way that these use cases can respond to sectoral needs across government. The issues which relate to safe and trusted AI and the way that we can ensure that AI does not cause user harms in the way that many other people expect that it would, and which is what makes them nervous about AI, is something that we want to tackle as well through a set of targeted interventions to address that, and that is a process we've started. Then there's another pillar which tackles the skill building requirements in AI in terms of the kind of skills that we can offer. All of this has been packaged, and of course, another pillar which meets the needs of startups and newer innovations in this space. Now, each of these pillars and each of these efforts is all geared with the basic premise in mind that while we will attempt to regulate AI, we are fairly clear that innovation should not be stifled in the process. Innovation is a part which needs to be encouraged. We realize the potential of this technology. I think we have also established already with the DPDP Act and the way that the Act itself has been configured that we will ensure that the interests of both innovation and regulation in terms of protecting certain vital interests and protecting interests of privacy and so on are protected. So I think there's a track record which has been established to ensure that, and you would find that that is what will come in the future as well in the way that the government intends to approach this critical question. So, and the last point I'd like to make in this regard is that I think this is something which needs to be both government-wide. It's not something which is confined only to the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It needs to pervade all of government, so there would be a number of other partners within government who would work on this. And equally, it needs to be economy-wide, and in that sense, we have to enable industry and various other segments to take it up. And likewise, when it comes to the skilling and the education field, it's again something which, as a horizontal technology, it's something that everyone needs to be familiar with and learn. We can't have a situation where AI as a concept or AI just stays confined to the computer science courses in engineering institutions. I think all kinds of institutions and all sorts of faculties and all departments will need to have an exposure and will need to sort of figure out how AI can be used in their respective lines of work, in their respective disciplines and subjects, and that is something that needs to be promoted as well. So these are broadly the set of actions that the government would be looking to take. As you're aware, the mission itself was approved just before the election notification came out, so we are really raring to go. So post June 4th is when probably you will see more action on this.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll request TP if you can give your introductory remarks and also maybe share an example of where you're seeing real-life application of AI, Gen AI, whatever.
Great. No, thanks so much, Rajiv. And I'm excited to be here. I'll start off by sharing a little bit of a story. So my core business is to produce wind energy and solar energy. About 5-6 years ago, I got woken up at about 2 in the morning, and somebody calls me up and says, one of your wind turbines is on fire. So I figured at 2 in the morning, there's nothing much you can do when you have a huge wind turbine burning. But then I started thinking, I was that same OEM that used to make all these wind turbines. And it's the OEM that actually looks after and maintains your turbines. And I figured there's no point fighting with the turbine. So what we started thinking about, how do we change the game in managing productivity of machines? So we started collecting the data from all our wind turbines and developing algorithms to predict failures. We improved machine availability from the high 80s to the high 90s, and we saw a huge improvement in financial returns. So that's how this little journey started. Then one day EDF in France came to us and said, listen, we heard what you're doing, can you do it for us as well? So we ended up connecting hundreds of wind turbines and solar farms in France, Germany, Spain, Italy, started collecting high frequency data from thousands of machines and applying similar algorithms. And then COVID happened. And during COVID, one of the biggest port operators came to us and said, listen, in each of our ports, we have these key cranes. Each crane costs about $15 million. And if one of these cranes go down in each berth, you've got 20 to 25% productivity loss. And the port operators end up paying huge demurrage charges if they're not able to meet certain time constraints. So then I didn't know much about cranes, but we know a lot about rotating machines because that's what we used to make. So we put about 48 sensors in each of these large $15 million cranes and started collecting all the data and again predicting failures. So that's how this little journey started, Rajiv, before this word of AI became such a big word. But the speed at which we've been able to take and deploy this technology, whether it's in the auto industry, chemical industry, steel industry, has what's taken me by surprise. Today, I think the AI market today is about 184 billion, growing at about 28-29% each year. So therefore, by about 2035, this market's going to be close to about $900 to $1 trillion. When we look at the market for generative AI, today it's fairly small. It's about $40 billion. But they expect by 2032, just the generative AI market is going to be worth $1.3 trillion. So the use and application of AI and generative AI for all of us in this room who come from an industrial or a manufacturing background, it's going to change the way we produce, the way we actually make things, the way we actually have quality in the way we do it. Now, why do I get excited, Rajiv, is because of this. I think we in India have an incredible opportunity to lead the world in the use and application of AI across industries. I think today the bigger applications are going to be in healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, banking, and transportation. I would say these are sort of the 5 big sectors where I can see a real business model where India can take the lead and show the world in terms of what we can do. And I think 5 things is democratizing the ability for India to compete with the best in the world. 1 is the cloud. 2 is computational power. 3 is the fact that today we have the ability to write advanced algorithms in India, just like anywhere else in the world. A huge need for automation and process optimization in manufacturing. And I think at the end of the day, in India, we have the brains to actually compete with the best in the world, to be one of the leaders in the world in AI and generative AI, especially in the world of manufacturing. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Rajiv.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, TP. Vinayak, over to you. And again, if you can share some examples, I think that's always great.
Yeah, it's working. Okay. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, CII, for having me here. Secretary Krishnan, thank you for your comments. So I agree with almost everything my fellow panelists have said. However, I'm slightly unusual for somebody who's building tech businesses. I try and resist hype, and I try and resist, where some of my colleagues, younger colleagues, are guilty of, drinking the Kool-Aid. So I want to start with some more sobering news, and then I'll get on to what I think is really interesting, encouraging news for India in this entire space of AI. So firstly, there was the AI editor from the Financial Times UK in Delhi, I think last week, and she spoke at one of the media conclaves, and I 100% agree with her that the current systems as we know it, including generative AI, are neither artificial nor are they intelligent. They are exceptional pieces of technology. They will unlock exceptional amount of economic value, but they are tremendous stochastic parrots. That's not a bad thing. It's just important to understand what they are, and equally important to understand what they are not. That's point number 1. Point number 2, if we revisit this conversation perhaps a year from now, we will recognize that we're going through the peak of the hype cycle. Whether that is in NVIDIA stock prices, whether that is in the kind of funding some of the Western AI companies are raising, or any other metric, we will recognize this was a peak. For example, for every single dollar raised by an AI startup in the US, about 60 to 70 cents go to NVIDIA in one way or the other. This is documented. Therefore, really, where is the value going is a big question mark. That's point number 2. Point number 3, if any of us have studied the history of technology waves and cycles before, we'll recognize it is too early to call winners, notwithstanding OpenAI and ChatGPT. Let me give you 3 examples from history. Google, the final search engine known to humanity, was not the first search engine. Example number 1. Example number 2, iPhone, in the non-Android world known as the ultimate smartphone, was not the first smartphone in the market, as an example. And there are plenty other examples across categories where it's not the first necessarily that becomes the ultimate winner. So it's too early. Now the good news, and I'll start with some personal examples and some professional examples. 2 weeks ago, my mind was blown. I had to take somebody close to me for a colonoscopy at India's probably premier hospital. After the colonoscopy, this is India's top, again, head of the department, chairman, sits me down and says, colonoscopy was all good, nothing to worry, all in the clear. However, he said, it was an algorithm that helped him and his team detect a few tiny polyps, which he removed. As some of you may know, polyps, if left in the colon, can become cancerous 10 years later. And this is one of the best doctors in his domain in India who acknowledged that it was an algorithm, what he called AI, which highlighted something unusual, which he may have otherwise missed. Finally, you still needed a human on the loop to go dig deeper and remove it. That blew my mind, that this happened in real time. It was not some science lab experiment. It happened to somebody close to me. The other interesting news, and this is personal, professional rather, of where we have in our companies deployed AI in the real world. So we I run a semiconductor company, as some of you know. I also run an AI company, and we tend to focus in both on the strategic sector or in the military. In collaboration with the premier UAV company in the world, General Atomics, we have co-developed an AI product that has got deployed for the Indo-Pacific. It's a very unique India problem where India has air assets, essentially UAVs, helicopters, and reconnaissance spy aircrafts from multiple vendors. We have some of our own, we have some from the Americans now, we have some from the French, we have some from the Israelis, and we have some from the Russian. For our operators, let's say for the Navy, to sit down and collate and correlate data for the same area of interest, which is, let's say, Chinese vessels in the Indo-Pacific, when they're getting data from different providers, they're all in different formats. Even if it's about the same area, even if it's about the same time frame. It takes hours for them to resolve something like this. Along with our partner, General Atomics, we co-developed a product that was, again, using algorithms, I don't like calling it AI, using smart statistical algorithms, was able to resolve the data inconsistency in format in templates in real time. And this is something which is deployed in the forward commands today as we speak. So tremendous value unlocking. Both, there was a medical outcome that could have got missed as recent as last week. There is a military outcome that could have got missed on a real-time basis in our products that get deployed. I would like to talk about, I think, why a lot of people in the AI community are doing a disservice to themselves and to others by using the word AGI, artificial general intelligence. And that is where, like the hype cycles of crypto and metaverse, there will be disappointment. Because we're not there yet. We're far, far, far away from that. Try and ask Elon Musk to get his car to drive in Chandni Chowk, and I'll change my name. We're not there yet. The streets of San Francisco are nice in a, containerized environment, but in the real world, even in New York City, it will fail. It's not a criticism, it's just a reality check. AI, as we know it today, in the physical world, is on the ground floor. All the greatest inventions of said AI that we're seeing is in the digital world. Large language models are a fantastic example of that. But do we really have, quote unquote, true autonomy? We don't. I'll give you one more example. So I was at the Munich Security Conference in February, and I was talking to colleagues of mine who have deployed UAVs and drones in Ukraine. In spite billions of dollars of military spend in AI, they do not till today have genuinely autonomous UAV systems. What that means is UAVs still are what's called FPA, first person assisted. Somebody is sitting in a bunker with a remote control to control the UAV to do a top attack on a tank, for example. Because the AI algorithms are not sophisticated enough yet that you can trust it for the UAV to go find a tank and do the attack. So we're on the ground floor. AI, as we know it today, has done a fantastic job and will continue to create trillions of dollars of economic value as far as automation is concerned. As far as autonomy is concerned, a subtle and nuanced difference between automation and autonomy, we're far away from it. Where I think the immense value for India will come, I have a lot of hope from the work Nandan Nilekani and his team is doing on the People Plus AI initiative. That really has the power to genuinely create applications which are centric to India. It has the power to create almost a UPI equivalent 2.0 tech stack that we could deploy for India and then eventually take it to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What I'll do is I'll have a quick round of questions. Before that, I requested everyone to give an example. I'll share one that we are doing within our organization, eBuy. So we have put the entire Income Tax Act, rules, opinions, knowledge, whatever knowledge that we have, and we are building an LLM model which is tax intelligent. So the idea is that if you need an opinion on anything, if you require tax computation from the financial statements, it can do that. If you need an opinion at anything, in a year's time, we should be able to give the first level, second level of opinion. If you get a notice from the tax department, in 12 to 15 months' time, it will give a T1, T2 return. So it will give you if this is the notice, these are the inaccuracies in the notice, these are the things that can be addressed and everything. It's a journey. I think we are 75-80% there, but that's the scale and size of the opportunity, disruption, whatever we may call, that we are seeing in the industry. So, sir, if I could start with you, I think you have now been interacting with government, industry, everyone. What do you think is the state of play in India relative to the world from a regulation standpoint, from an application standpoint, and also particularly for medium-sized companies? There are two concerns. One is MSMEs and second is jobs. What is your perspective on that? I know I've asked you a lot of questions in a short time frame, but since we are short.
No, I think yes. On the jobs front, I mean, that is truly a concern, and what kind of jobs would get lost. That is something which, frankly, we have consulted with different industry bodies and others to get their understanding, and with other experts. We can't say that we have a clear answer. But I think there are two things which are important for India, and even anecdotally when you talk to companies. Many people feel that the newer AI jobs which come, many of those will get created in India for 2 or 3 reasons. One, that we have a large number of STEM-trained graduates, many of whom have exposure to AI far more than any other country in the world, and they can be quickly retrained into that space, and that would probably be the most cost-effective solution globally. So it could, in a sense, be another Y2K moment in a different area. The second aspect is that we yet don't have as many white-collar jobs in the services sector that many of the other advanced countries have, which would get more readily displaced compared to the kind of jobs that we have in India. So both of these, I think, give rise to some hope and expectation that on the job loss scenario, it may not be as bad a situation as it is in certain other economies, but I think a massive amount of retraining would be required, and a massive amount of skilling would be required to keep the population ready for those kinds of jobs. Coming to the regulation part of it, again, I think we are a little lucky, partly because of the political election cycle, that the laws and the regulations which need to be made will be following the kind of laws and regulations which other countries are attempting, and therefore we have an opportunity to learn from them and figure out where things have gone wrong or where things have not gone quite right, and that would enable us to evolve a framework which is more in line with what we need. To that extent, I think there's a constant sharing of experience and sharing of learning going on with jurisdictions across the world to understand what they're up to and what is happening there and what we need to really watch out for. So to that extent, I think certainly we have a bit of an advantage in coming onto the scene a little late in terms of the regulation part of it. The last bit is in terms of MSMEs and access to facilities. I think that is something which we are really concerned, because you don't want a situation in the country where productivity of some enterprises, thanks to application of AI, rises so much that those enterprises which cannot adapt or which cannot access it will lose out completely. And I think one of the challenges for us, and one of the important things that we are attempting through the AI mission, is to ensure that innovators, MSMEs and others have adequate access to the kind of infrastructure that you need so that they can also apply it. But it also involves a lot of other aspects, including retrofitting. And since I'm in the middle of a CII event, I think I might as well make this appeal to CII as an industry body, that I think even if AI has to be applied to industry, there are many other steps which need to go before that. I think many of the existing industries will require retrofitting with IoT devices, with sensors, which will collect the kind of information which is needed, the data which is needed for AI models to really apply in the industry scenario. And that is an effort that we need to make. How do we sort of actually apply these technologies across different industries, including for MSMEs? And that is an effort in which definitely MeitY and other ministries of Government of India would be quite happy to support.
Thank you very much, sir. I think even in corporates, what we are seeing, wherever we are we are looking at application of AI, Gen AI, the data strategy is the most important. I think people underestimate the amount of investment and infrastructure, whether it's in warehousing, getting the data foundation right, before one gets fully into the journey of that. TP, if I may, if you could, since this is CII and a lot of people will be from the manufacturing sector, what are some of the challenges that people face, especially in manufacturing when they're looking at AI, Gen AI and other things?
Rajiv, I think the fundamental challenge is not the AI part of it. Because once you have the data, you've cleaned the data, tagged the data, you can put 10 PhDs and you can develop some algorithms. The bigger challenge is collecting the data. And it's a challenge all over the world. Why? I was part of that problem. At GE, we would never share data with Siemens. Siemens wouldn't share data with ABB. ABB wouldn't share data with Schneider. So when you go to any production floor, you have about 100 machines. You never have one machine type. You'd have a GE machine, Siemens, Berlmuller, Makino, Fanuc, and each one talks a different code. So the first step is how do you get this data out? And what I find all over the world, the lack of people who have the ability to make these machines communicate. And that's the fundamental problem. Now, these are expensive machines. These are $5, $10, $15 million machines. So the person has to really trust that you know what you're doing to let you even touch his machines. So I think that's what we realized, and that's what we're trying to do is the first step is to actually figure out how to connect these machines, either with IoT sensors or in some other applications with cameras and vision, to be able to get that data, clean the data, tag the data, ingest the data, scale the data, and then apply the algorithms. So I think that's one of the most fundamental problems in the world. But again, I think this is an area that India could really establish all over the world. Why? Because when I go to the US and I go to Europe and I see a lot of these factories, our customer is not the IT person, it's the factory floor manager. And for the first time in our lives, we are bringing together the physical world and the digital world together. In other words, we're bringing IT and OT together, overlaying it with AI to drive productivity. So it's a very complex world where people don't have that skill sets that we need to do. So I'll just share with you one or two quick examples. At Bangalore Airport right now, at the new T2, we've sort of connected about hundreds of cameras to run the whole airport with Vision AI. So now for 60 million passengers, we can now predict how much time it takes to go through security, immigration, baggage check-in. We can actually drive safety in factories where if a person puts his hands near a machine, his hands can get chopped off. But now what we can do is through Vision AI, shut down the machine before the hands gets too close. So the applications and use of these technologies, once you're able to reliably get this data, then apply it, is going to be the big change that we need around the world.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I think we'll probably have time for one more question. Professor, I'll go back to you. And I would particularly be interested in one or two sectors where you're seeing maximum implication of AI. And since you're involved with the education sector, I know education is one area where a lot of people have questions on how AI is impacting.
All right. One of the easiest sector where the AI is going to intervene and already begun to intervene is education. One of the applications which is homegrown and done in India itself by AICTE people through lots of young interns called Anuvadini. It provides us capability to learn things in our own native languages, because the problem has been all the textbooks or all the books have been available only in one language or a dominant languages. Translation was possible but was very difficult, and we did not have enough reading material available in those languages. You feed your any book written in any language, and today it's translated to 7 or 8 languages. Telugu, I know, Tamil it does, Gujarati, Marathi, of course Hindi and English translations are done. So you can take the standard book, textbook, and it not only produces the book by translation, it also produces the cover sheet, everything for you, and you will have a replica of that book in your native language. That is going to provide the big intervention for everybody to have the teaching material. Even if you wanted to do engineering tomorrow in a mixed mode or your native language, you can have a reading material. I remember the Chinese used to have this, and Korean used to have this. Every English textbook, they will have translated into their own language and created manually into their own, along with the pictures and some English words, etc. in them. We never had that capability because they could then study and catch up with the rest of the world using the same books which other English-speaking people had. Today, we have that capability in Anuvadini. So that's one part. Second part is that the reach of the education. The basic courses, we started the SWAYAM portal. Idea was that IITs, etc., have a great professors and great knowledgeable teachers, but many other engineering institutes do not have that capability. So those courses are recorded in SWAYAM platform and given that either the teachers at younger institute or other institutes can learn, or students can also directly learn from those courses. This capability of basic courses now can be extended in the newer environment where all this knowledge can be embedded in them. So not only the courses learning which happens, the question, answer and interaction part, because behind that you put the knowledge model which can answer the questions, because that was one-way communication of SWAYAM, where professor whatever is recorded, you can listen to it, but you have no querying mechanism. You can have a querying mechanism which is not by that professor, but collective knowledge of all professors or all textbooks which have been put, and you will be able to learn from that. So that is the other thing which is going to change, or in other words, provide access to education to masses, which is not physically possible in India because we cannot create enough of the physically trained good teachers, is also happening. And that's one change which has already begun to come in. Today, AICT is translating books. It's available also on your website. I think it's anuvadini.something, edu, etc. and so on. You can search for Anuvadini on a Google today, and you can even you get your login created, and you can experiment. Anuvadini also has another capability, which is a direct speech translation. It's working wonderfully, and it's all AI technology embedded underneath. Great part is not done by any commercial company or professional company. Bunch of interns who have been working with AI, and these are all engineering interns which come for 6 months period there. Somebody actually coordinated that, and it has been one application of the in the education sector, and is making difference in the country already.
Thank you very much. We'll try and wrap up. I would say, just to summarize, if I was to look at this, from a regulation level, at a country level, at an enterprise level, clearly there is a lot of things that are happening globally. There are lots of opportunities in India, and there are lots of things that are changing in India. But this is the stage of experimentation. But I think almost all corporates, companies that we talk to, everyone's trying to see what and where the disruption is going to come from. So I think it's really fortunate from our standpoint that government is very focused on that, very upfront, very early. And as everyone said, India has tremendous potential for various reasons, but also the talent, and you rightly mentioned, today most of the AI innovation, Gen AI innovation, sir, that's happening at scale globally is happening in India, because the speed, cost at which it can be replicated. So it's a tremendous opportunity, lots of things to watch out for as they evolve, the cost, regulation, and everything else. So I must thank all of you for being very, very patient listeners, and also thanks to all my panelists for sharing their thoughts, sharing their insights. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you to our speakers. We have a little token of appreciation that we'd like to present to our esteemed speakers. May I request Mr. Memani to present a memento to Secretary S. Krishnan. Professor Bharat Bhaskar. To Mr. Tejpreet Singh Chopra. To Mr. Chopra now, our apologies. And Mr. Chopra, we request you to kindly present one to Mr. Bhimani. Thank you, everyone. We will be starting the next session as soon as we're ready in a bit. So request members to remain seated, please.